Okay. Good to go, sorry.
All right. Okay.
So I think we just need to go through this little bit, small changes and then
And then,
we'll be setting this to public.
all right.
So these units that are dated,
Yeah, so they all didn't print in color as we
Right.
noticed. This was the original. But pretty much it breaks down the height requirements, which these are all pretty generic. Lot line setbacks, utility notifications, fencing, signage.
sure. And you said this is pretty much uniform with what KV Cap has been
Correct.
working with other towns.
Correct. And then here's just the demonstration of it in the C4 district, how it would look on table P.
Does anybody have any questions on this?
I don't.
Go ahead.
First one I saw was, the height restriction of 15 feet. Typically, you're tying in with a standard utility pole and 35 foot. I assume that to be exempt or.
Yeah, I'm guessing from their codes, everything they have, that's pretty much exempt. I think they're basing it off of the heights of the actual solar panels themselves.
So
But tying into,
the farm in itself and not the
yes,
interconnect.
I thought of that same thing there, you know, but I kind of figured the
yeah,
transition poles would be.
Otherwise, I don't think of any, I can't think of anything that is over 15 feet.
Normally, right.
yeah, I don't see that really being an issue, but again, I'll make sure to get all that worked out for the questions at the public hearing.
Have anything, Brett?
No.
Why would we put a 15-foot limit on it? What's the reason for that?
I think it's more of just generic what they've already been doing through other towns and counties. And haven't really needed anything to be above that.
Does that make sense to do it though? I mean, who knows what goes down the line and maybe they need something a little higher if we're gonna approve it anyway.
Yep, so this would be the ordinance and then it would still go in front of the planning board with all their thoughts and agenda for what they're trying to do.
Cause you're familiar with them more, basically if they were. The higher you get, the more difficult they are to clean and other things, I would imagine.
And I don't know anybody that really does much cleaning.
No.
We certainly don't. I know there have been vendors that have contacted us and asked us if we're interested, but I don't know anybody that's doing it. But like I said, we don't have anything over 15 feet. I can't imagine.
Right.
I can't picture anything that would be over 15 feet, but you bring up things in the technology, things in the future, storage, where they start, combining storage on site. Then you may have something that might be over 15 feet, but that's gonna be a different animal anyway.
Yeah.
But that brings me to the next point is, we had the wind ordinance, this is gonna be the solar ordinance. We don't know what the next one's gonna be, but should we, make a combination for the next one, or?
As a
We can't predict the future, but.
yeah, we can't, so I think that's why we're sticking to just the USSF. And running with that for now, and we'll just adapt as time comes.
Sure.
Anything, anybody have anything else?
What does a utility scale mean?
It's basing it off of the size of, I'm sure you're a lot more familiar with it than I am.
I'm not sure if there's a, you know, a 100% definition, but, my interpretation would be bigger than residential,
Yeah.
and I would say, you know, whether it's 5 megawatts or it might be 2 megawatts, but, so there's a number out there that will be the dividing line. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but, you know, in my mind, it would be 5 megawatts in that, and that's where, they drew the line with the community solar and the net energy benefits and so forth.
I was traveling someplace a week or so ago, came by and had a few solar systems, basically on a big pedestal, they're probably, what, 15, 20 foot square or something.
Yeah.
That's still just considered, you know,
I would guess that's probably residential or small
small
commercial,
commercial, right?
but you know, if it's just a single bank.
Right.
It probably rotates around with the sun. And you know, I've seen some of those small scale ones, I've seen them in Brunswick, and there's a landowner down in Fairfield has one.
I saw a couple things up towards, you know, Ripley, or not Ripley, up towards Guilford area or whatever. Just out on the back, we were on a back road, yeah, you know, I think part of it was, you know, they might have lived half off the grid.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, it's probably just somebody living off grid.
Right. Because, you know, we were on this road and I come across 3 different places that had them, you know, they were basically one big pole and I'm guesstimating they were, you know, 15, 20 foot square, something like that, yeah.
I would guess residential, small commercial.
Right, okay.
And then again, this will not affect people's properties doing roof solar, things like that, because it's completely residential at that point.
We got a restriction on it, if you're 800 square feet.
For the resident, for the commercial, correct.
They are not included in this definition. So
Yep.
anything 800 square feet or less. Not part of it. That's what you're talking about. Right?
Yes, yeah, and then it would still, like, even if somebody calls in today wanting to do solar on their roof, the town actually, we don't issue any permits for that. That's all through the state for electrical permitting. So we technically do not really,
So even if it was over 800 square feet, you would-
I'm sure we would, as we're working on the ordinance, I'm sure we're gonna pick up questions
Yeah.
and there'll be more research going into it, into depth. But like I said, this was just to get the ball rolling, get us something. And I'm pretty sure Joel may even be here for the public hearing as well. I'll reach out to him.
Yeah, but so if you had a large commercial building, you know,
Yeah.
and you wanted to put a lot more on that roof, you know, that would still be considered, there, you know, electrical, because it isn't going as a separate entity.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else? So I guess at this point, we're looking for a motion
Yeah.
to set, or, okay, I guess we can.
came a long way.
Sorry about that.
Down the road to get you. Sean Thies, work with Haley Ward, but also a Pittsfield resident. So I have sort of 2 different interests tonight. One being the project that we had already submitted an application for, in the industrial park. Sort of the whole process that went through. I think we're probably beyond that, but I think I'd still like to give the board a little bit of background there. We worked with the town, the code officer preparing that application, with no indication that there was any sort of issue with solar in Pittsfield. There's been many projects already built. Came to the planning board and presented and didn't get any negative feedback, and from what I understand, I wasn't there, but it was, some board members were ready to approve it, but they decided, I think with some advice from KV Cog, that it might be a pre-application meeting or something to that effect, so we decided, all right, we'll come back in a month and be done with it. Meeting got done. The applicant went and bought property at the industrial park because there was no indication of any issues. And a few weeks later, the town puts a moratorium on solar and says it applies to our project. So as a resident, and I guess as an applicant, I don't think that's really fair to applicants that come in and already go through the process, get in front of the board, then all of a sudden have that pulled out from under him. I guess it was his own fault for buying the property before he actually had approval, but knowing sort of what has already happened in town, there was no reason to think that another project that size wouldn't be approved.
So if I remember back at that meeting, there was proposals before us and plans, but they weren't finished plans and basically, so we couldn't give an okay for anything at that point.
They were finished plans. I think there was a question that came up at the meeting that we couldn't answer right then.
Well,
And
one of the things was they were asking for fence line.
Yes, yeah,
And,
yeah.
and stuff, so that had to be revised back down,
Yeah.
and I can't remember what paper in front of me, but there might have been one or two other smaller things.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
And so basically, at that point, you know, we didn't have anything,
Right.
and then I'm not sure what the timeline was. A few weeks later, the town council, they
Right,
put the moratorium on.
and the applicant was never notified that there was any discussion about it or anything, and it was just found out afterwards that all of a sudden that there was a moratorium. But I guess that's history now, but,
Well, I'll just add, I mean, that your applicant isn't still, I mean, still has stuff accomplished there, I mean. Is this C4 part of that?
No,
C4,
No,
that's
no.
the industrial park.
Okay, so it's all different.
Correct.
Thank you for correct, okay, so, yeah.
so that's the thing now, this draft, won't allow solar in the industrial park zone, which seems a little bit odd to me that it's an industrial. It doesn't affect neighbors, there's no residential areas that are affected by it. And now putting on more of my residence hat, again, industrial doesn't seem like a bad zone to have solar in. And looking at the ordinance, wind power is allowed in a whole bunch of these zones as a conditional use, so I don't know why anybody would wanna see a wind tower. But they would be against seeing solar panels.
I'm not sure. Commercial wind, I don't think was allowed in.
Yeah, it's the commercial. Pretty sure, I don't have the full wind one.
Like, when we did, it's been a number of years since we did the wind, and I remember the smaller ones, like what the town had down at the transfer station. Those were allowed, I think, but. Yeah. You know,
Okay, I didn't dig much into the
Right.
wind one, I'm just looking at the approved uses here and it talks about wind. And something else you guys were just talking about as far as, utility scale solar. I don't think there's necessarily a size that classifies it as that, I think it's if you're tied into the grid and power's going back into the grid. And the way I read this, that's not allowed in the industrial zone. So if somebody was to build a big building, put solar on the roof, where some was for their use, some was tied into the grid, they wouldn't be allowed to do that because it's utility scale solar. It doesn't matter if it's on the roof or on the ground. It's just not allowed in the zone. So that's something to think about. Going forward.
Sean, do you see a lot of solar farms in industrial parks?
I've never seen it not allowed in an industrial park. I'm trying to think of if I've done so many of them, Brent, it's,
The one in Milo.
yeah, that's good, yeah, Milo had an industrial business park. And they essentially wiped out the whole park and put in like a huge,
That's the one.
we did that one 80 acres, I think.
just north of town as you're going out of town on,
Yeah, right after,
on the right hand side there.
trying to think, it's like the, not Shriners, it's the, like Knights of Columbus or
Right.
something hall right there, Kiwanis, I think it is, yeah, it's the Milo Kiwanis, but yeah, huge field, both
Right.
sides of the road, 80 acres of solar. So that was an industrial. What I've seen we've worked with lots of towns with moratoriums on, and it's always, concerns with residential zones. And then doesn't matter necessarily what zone, but it's the visual aspect of the panels and coming up with an ordinance to provide screening, so they're not visible, but I don't recall seeing any town where it wouldn't be allowed in an industrial zone use. Just because when people think of what the impacts are from solar, mainly visual. Some people get concerned about noise, but noise isn't really an issue. It doesn't really affect an industrial type setting. So,
I don't know, I think you might be a little wrong there. It seems to me when you have an industrial zone, at least in my way of thinking, is you got business, you got facilities. If this guy doesn't make it and he wants to, and he sells a facility, you can still move another business in there. And somebody else can start. But a solar field doesn't give many advantages in that respect. It's what it is and it's gonna stay there.
well, I guess I would disagree because solar, you've got a decommissioning requirement. That solar field, solar project fails, they're required to remove it. That's all removed. The lot's completely usable again for the next person. Somebody builds a buildings and say it's specific to some certain use, and that business fails. You got a building sitting there that potentially can't be used for something else, has to be tore down, there's no requirement that they tear it down. It could sit there there's no decommissioning requirement for buildings. And I get it. I think part of what we heard from the town is there's hope that a business is gonna go there that's gonna create jobs. I've lived here for, how long has that industrial park been there? That property's, I don't think ever generated a job. The building that's there now doesn't create jobs. It's a freezer building that was used for storage. It'd be great, I guess, if somebody did buy it, and I think the applicant right now is hoping somebody would. It's been on the market since he bought it, since he can't do anything with it, but there's absolutely zero interest in somebody to buy that property. But that's all I wanted to say, so hopefully that's some good information if you are moving forward, some other things to keep in mind for making some changes to that.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Sure.
Any other discussion?
Well, I just say, I guess I'll just add that, you know, I do agree with him in a way. I guess I wasn't privy of how that all kind of shook out, you know, just wasn't registering my brain because I hadn't been, you know, active. So, you know, you know, we have approved the other one on the other side of the trailer park. You know, that was moved through and everything, so. Maybe we should revisit putting it back there and allowing. I mean, it's not gonna be a huge solar farm there, but maybe we should revisit allowing that in the industrial park.
Yeah, I'll definitely talk with the KV cog and the town manager and attorneys and everything and.
I don't know, what's the rest of you guys definitely against it, or?
Well, that's one of those things that, you know. It'll go out to a public hearing and. You know, after the input we get is basically where a decision will be made, I guess, you know.
Well, I'm just curious now, since,
Yeah.
you know, when he's brought up it.
From my perspective, I mean, we hadn't made a decision, we never really got to that point, and then the moratorium came up, you know, parallel with us with the town council. And we really didn't have any planning board input into that. And yeah, I agree with you, Sean, I mean, what better place for a solar farm than an industrial park? You know, I think of, you know, Rumford Industrial Park with their gas generator there and generation is an allowable use in my mind. So I don't really know where the moratorium started. And it wasn't here, but personally, I don't agree with it, but. That's all I have to say.
Brent, what about you?
I don't know, just, you know, thinking it over, I mean, years ago when it was developed. Federal money was used to put utilities in, water, sewer, power to these lots, to build infrastructure, buildings, whatever. And this is a whole different animal now, you know, I don't know. And I understand, you know, they bought the lot, there was nothing saying that they couldn't put a solar facility there. It's just new territory.
many more, does anybody know how many more lots are over there available? Is that the last one?
I think there are a few more over by Nitro.
Nitro bought a bunch of them.
Yeah,
But they ended up not building on that one, right? They didn't build the one that they came in.
There's still, I think there's still a lot, I don't know if the. You know, between the medical recycling and the next place up, there's still an empty lot there.
With the burn piles
With the
up?
burn pile, but I don't know if the next people actually own that or not.
I remember that lot there, it was a small acre because of wetlands. I thought that.
Well, the one where the building that they wanted to put the solar, you know, there's a huge area of wetlands and
But
that's,
I thought the one where the, burn piles are, that was a huge wetland there, that
no,
wasn't that big.
that's no different than the rest of the soil. You know,
I think it's behind.
all the wetland, you know, across,
I thought the buildable lot area wasn't very big there on that one, that's why that one hasn't.
no, I think that lot's okay. Where Sonico is or was behind there, that was. Yeah. Poor judgment, years ago, they made deals for swapping land for wetlands and things, so. You know, there's a lot, that lot that they wanted to build solar on that corner there, half that lot's not buildable because it's considered wetlands, which. You know, I think was a deal from years ago. You know,
Well, I'll just say that, I would revisit further discussion on that industrial park. I don't,
so we are short, you know, very few buildable lots left in the industrial park, put it that way.
Is there gonna be a public hearing?
that's what this is for, yeah, to move
Yeah.
forward to have the public hearing.
Basically, this is discussion, and then we'll set this to a public hearing and go from there. Anything else?
and I guess I'll just say, I mean, the big thing, I guess, where my head is that. We got one on the, I know it doesn't mean that we should just keep on building them, but we got one on the other side of the trailer park. That, to me, is not an eyesore, and this one is here. And. It was moving forward. I guess I'm with, in the sense of that. Having that other one. Too, I guess my brain right now is saying that. I wasn't objective to the one happening when we were looking at it before. I don't know, and I wasn't able to be to that second meeting in the sense of things, but, you know, we never voted on the approval of that.
We didn't have a second meeting on that one.
No,
It
yeah,
never, it didn't come through the,
No,
okay,
basically, it was preliminary, that meeting going through, they had some plans done and things, but wasn't finalized project.
and I don't wanna say, yeah, we just throw these up anywhere, but, you know. I guess from what he has said, the gentleman has said, I guess I'm not gonna just not disregard what he's saying about this one lot, you know, if he, you know, yes. Next week, this gentleman could come back and say, well, the landowner ended up selling it and doesn't wanna come with a, you know, I mean, things can happen, you know, and.
He doesn't wanna be anywhere where he's not wanted, but he's stuck with a building that he already purchased.
You know, and I mean, I'm not just saying it just because you've already invested, I'm just saying it is, like what you said, the logic behind it is an industrial park. We are allowing, wind energy to be put in there to a certain level. And we are having an opportunity, I guess I'm open to continue to discuss it, I guess that's just
The
all.
one behind the trailer park, that technically wasn't, industrial park land.
No, it was split, the lot was half and half, the half towards the wall, or the Rennies. It was, commercial
Highway
overlay,
Yeah,
or
something like that.
part of the, you know, the business district. And actually, I believe the back half is industrial,
Was it?
I can't recall exactly, but.
Well. Yeah, I can't recall. For some reason, I was thinking it was.
I think it's an industrial zone, but it wasn't part of the industrial park,
Yeah,
That's possible.
it was a separate lot.
Okay.
so I'll just throw my 2 cents in there,
Yeah.
in the sense of it.
Well, that's what this meeting's for.
You know.
Set? Yeah, I guess we'll look for. We need a motion.
For the public hearing.
To set the public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we, proceed with, the public hearing for this new business, amendment to the chapter 13 zoning ordinance, table P, rural district. And however that discussion develops.
Go from there.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? If not, all in favor? Passes. Discussion item, commercial low intensity businesses.
So this is, back on the changing the zoning.
I think that wasn't supposed to be in
Okay,
the,
For the
so,
meeting.
oh, okay, so yeah, that's gonna be in the next meeting.
Right.
What we're gonna be going over the
that's
low
what
intensity
we
uses.
passed on the last
Correct.
one. Right,
So it already passed. Now at our next meeting, we'll have the applicants
okay.
coming in.
So I went through town council, passed there,
Yep.
okay, okay.
Yep, so.
So we had public hearings here, we didn't have public hearing here, we had public hearing at town council.
We had a public hearing here.
We did?
Yep, then we sent it to town council.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
all right, yeah.
And
now-
that's the one, was that the meeting at the first of summer at 6 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay, that's the one I messed
All
up.
right, so we had public hearings at both
correct.
town council and here, and they had a vote,
And it, yeah, it's all passed, and so now people can start filing their applications and for their own.
so the ordinance has been revised to
Correct.
allow this.
Yep. So we can
Special
move forward and, you know, we, like I was saying before, we have. One resident with the tax business from her home, we have somebody else with a Hillview mini barn she actually just put her application in, a week ago. She wants to do massage therapy from her property, you know. just-
In the Hillview mini bar.
Yeah, in the Hillview mini barn.
Yeah.
You know, just, it would be a little easier for our clients,
Yeah.
quiet. Then we still have the gentleman, for the gym, Bill.
Yeah.
I've been in contact with him, so I'll just be preparing all that for the next meeting.
And right now, do we know the next meeting scheduled on?
It will be the second Monday
Of November.
Yep. At 6.
Is that when the public hearing is?
And that was my next question, so I'm gonna say yes, but I have to double check and see when we can get it posted in the newspapers. I'm pretty sure we use like the Rolling Thunder.
Right.
So-
I think we need 2 weeks.
Yes, so,
It should make it, but be close.
yeah, it's gonna be,
2 weeks is enough, or?
it should be,
Doesn't have to be 30 days?
and I think it's the 2 weeks.
Okay.
You need for the public hearing for
I
that.
put this out here that if he needs to move the meeting, our meeting, an extra week, does anybody have opposition to that?
Are we talking about November 11th right now?
Correct.
Would be the normal
Which
meeting.
is
Yeah.
Veterans Day? And
Okay, yeah, so,
I
That one-
don't have a problem with that.
No, I don't either.
okay,
Yeah, I guess anybody else have?
but I'll see what the Rolling Thunder says, about us getting it into the.
Well, I'll be different. Please let it be, why don't we just try to do it that week, November the 11th of that week?
Yep.
Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. If we can't, if you need extra, a couple
Okay.
extra days there, that would be my personal
Okay.
spot.
Okay, I will keep that in mind and see what we can figure out.
But, you know, I have in mind this thing that if you couldn't get it in that time period, if we moved it if we had to go another week out. Right,
Having flexibility is nice.
Yeah, well, that'd be fine, as long as we don't start getting into Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Well, I guess I'm gonna add again then. I won't be there on the 18th.
Okay,
Great.
okay.
That's what you did, that's where
the
it is.
18th
Okay.
is the following Monday.
Yep,
Okay.
keep that in mind then.
Anybody else have anything else? If not, look for a motion to adjourn,
Make a motion to adjourn.
all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Yep.